Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's presentation by Nick Yu, International Writing Program speaker, who is the Artistic Director of the Shanghai Dramatic Arts Center, the Artistic Director of the Shanghai International Comedy Festival, and co-director of the Shanghai Performing Arts Group, who will speak to us today on the Crowd Chinese Contemporary Theater. I'm Janet Linus, ICFRC board member and host for today's program. We would like to take a moment to thank our members, our volunteers, our interns for all making these forums possible. I also want to acknowledge our university and community supporters, the University of Iowa's Honors Program, the University of Iowa Public Policy Center, and the Stanley U of I Foundation Support Organization for their financial support. And I also want to thank today's special sponsors, Ken and Alice Atkinson and Green State Credit Union. I also thank City Channel 4 for professionally recording our programs for cablecast on City Channel 4 or 118-2 and the U of I Library's digital archives. I would ask that you please remember to like City Channel 4 on Facebook if you're on Facebook. Our format today is going to be its usual one. Following our speaker's presentation at about 1 p.m., we will have a 15-minute question and answer period from the written cards submitted by our audience members. Please note that we request that you actually use the cards and that we can read the questions from here so that they can be recorded by the City Channel 4. The cards will be collected by our interns at the conclusion of our speaker's remarks. And at this time, I would ask to remind you to please silence your cell phones and any other electronic devices you might have with you. And if you must leave early, please do so quietly so as not to disturb others. At this point, though, I would like to introduce Christopher Merrill, who will be introducing our speaker today.
Thank you, Janet. Yu Rongjun, also known as Nick, is an award-winning playwright as well as the co-director of the Shanghai Performing Arts Group, the artistic director of Shanghai Dramatic Arts Center, the chief director of the Shanghai International Contemporary Theater Festival, and the director of Shanghai International Comedy Festival. Basically, he's the prime minister of Chinese theater. In short, there is no one better equipped to tell us about contemporary Chinese theater. Since 2000, Nick has authored more than 70 works for stage and screen. His numerous stage plays have been performed not only by the Shanghai Dramatic Arts Center and other theater companies in China, but by foreign companies as well, with productions in Chinese, English, Japanese, Turkish, Spanish, Italian, Hebrew, and other languages and dialects. In addition, his works have been published in Chinese, Japanese, English, Spanish, German, and Turkish. He has also translated and/or adapted foreign language works into Chinese that have been performed in China and abroad, including The Vagina Monologues, Jane Eyre, I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change, Henry V, and Lolita. And he's written screenplays for film and television as well. As the manager of the Arts Theater, Drama Salon, and the D6 studio of the Shanghai Dramatic Arts Center, he has hosted more than 500 projects, including productions from all of China's major theater companies and more than 200 productions from abroad. He has also facilitated the world tours for more than 20 plays developed at the Shanghai Dramatic Arts Center. And I'm proud to say that he was the key player in Bookwings China, the project we did some years ago where we commissioned 6 young playwrights, 3 from China, 3 from the United States, to create new plays on a common theme, translate them into English in China, and then stage them simultaneously in Iowa City and in Shanghai and over the internet. It was pretty wild. Nick graduated from the Shanghai Physical Education Institute with a bachelor's degree in medicine. So if anything goes bad here tonight with you, he can take care of you as well. And he is pursuing a PhD now from the Shanghai Theater Academy. He's participating in the IWP's fall residency, courtesy of the Paul and Walling Engel Fund. Please join me in welcoming Nick Yu.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for everybody to come to this what I'm talking about, the Chinese contemporary theater. And first, I apologize because my English is not that good, but I will try. And if I cannot find a word, I will change another word, try another word. So sorry for that. In fact, just 1 week ago, I get the invitation to have this talk, and I just give the name, the crowd for Chinese contemporary theater. Why I say the crowd? Because the crowd is one of my play, the name of my play. And this play was commissioned by the Hong Kong Arts Festival. That is happening in 2014. But you know, in fact, for the occupied the center in Hong Kong, that is 2014 to 15. But before I wrote this play, it's not happened. But in this play, I think there will be happened. So I wrote a play from the culture revolutionary period to the occupied center in Hong Kong. Then almost in the 40 years. I try to, from the angle, from the event, this kind of angle, to see the Chinese history. And this play presenting in China, in Hong Kong in 2014, 15, and then moved to China. And then we already have the 8 different languages. But it's, the funny thing is, a lot of the theater company feel interesting about this play because this play, the subject is happening everywhere. Even now in the United States, I think. So that will be really interesting. So the name is the crowd. But the crowd, also the Chinese contemporary theater, the situation right now. From my opinion, that is the crowd. That is the play. We also present in China in the different cities. That is a really sensitive subject in China because I talk about the revolutionary, cultural revolutionary period until now. From the events, from the angle to talk about the Chinese the history. But the interesting thing is. That is from original, the real story. In fact, the Hong Kong Arts Festival invited me to write the play. They wanted me to adapt the People of the Enemy by the Ibsen. But when I read the play, I think that I really interested is not is the people. So I think, can I write a play about the people, not the other things? I think the people in China, in the history, is so interesting for me. They agree, so I started to write. In fact, in the 1967, in Chongqing, that is a big city in the center of China. And at that time, in all of China, is a big crowd. Because in Chongqing, the people that fight each other is really seriously. They even use the boat on the river. They fight each other, use tank and use other things. But both sides, they all support the China Mall, but in a different way to support. A mother bring her son only 13 years old, to go to the countryside, from the city to the countryside, to avoid the fighting. So when they through the 2 factories, the one factory is for tank, the other factory is for cannon shoot, something like that, the 2 factory. They have an empty area between 2 factories. So when the mother brings the son through walks through the area, suddenly the mother was shot by somebody just in front of her son. Finally, we find who killed his mother. that is a guy, educated guy, also in the 20s. He used the gun to shoot the mother. And the people ask him, why you shoot this woman? And he said, I just want to test the gun is good or not. So that is, for me, I really shocked for this true story. I would think, why this guy lose his mind? He educated, he had a good job, he worked in the big factory, but just he wants just to test the gun and kill a woman in that time, also in front of her son. And this son chased up this guy for more than 30 years to choose one to kill him. So I think this is a real story. But this story led me to think why the people lose mind. In fact, in the Cultural Revolutionary period, a lot of Chinese people, they lose mind. They do something in the youth time they never do, but why they do such things? But in the normal time, so many people do like that. That is the things of the group. So I wrote the play from the beginning of that and the end of the Hong Kong. That is another story happened in Shanghai. That in the 2000, I forget, maybe 2010, something like that. That a judge and he go to the street girl with the other people together, but shooted by somebody. That is a big event in Shanghai. So I put these two stories together. So from the 1967 to the 2014 in Hong Kong, from Chongqing to Shanghai to Beijing to Hong Kong, I wanted to make all the big events, things happen in China to mix together. Some like the China tried to open in 1978, also for the Olympic Games, for the Expo in Shanghai, also for the Tiananmen events, also for the occupied the center in Hong Kong. All these things, I want to put them all together to make the people to think about why this kind of thing happened, why the people will be so so patient in such a group. They will lose mind. They cannot keep calm. Why? So I want to write a play about this. And this play we only use 6 actors, but they will present almost 100 characters on in the play. Also can to show for the cloud, for water, the air, the wind. The actor will be do like that. So this play, I think, is a reaction for what happened now in the world. Even for UK, why try to escape from the Europe? In United States, we always talk about Trump. So all these kind of things will be involved with that. So, I was born from a small village. And when I was young, in the summertime, the holiday, I can to fish the small little fish in the pool. I just used a spider webber and use some of the oil put together and use the needle put together and just through the water and take it out and have the small fish. I always think the small fish, why so silly? Why so silly? So, but when I wrote this play, I do some research. I find they have a lot of the animals do like this. The small fish in the river, they just have one fish is the head fish, and swimming so fast, and all the other fishes just follow. They don't think, they just follow. So in the sea, they also have this kind of fish. So I also use these fish inside this play, make them all together. So, in fact, in China, when this play is presented in Shanghai and Beijing and Chongqing and Chengdu, when we do like that, the people is always talking is that exactly always happened to us. We cannot to keep calm. We just follow. We don't think. We just follow. So this is the play, the crowd. But for the Chinese contemporary theater, is same now. We just follow. Because and for the new government now, they support the arts is really well, but money always have the aim. You need to do something the government wants you to do. So all these kind of things, and all the artists they really do. If you do something smoothly, if you swimming quickly, you just follow. You can't to really to listen. So I think that is the one word, the crowd. The second is this I found from the internet. In fact, that is the name of another my play, and this play is cannot put on the stage, but it's published in China. This play I wrote for my father when my father died in 2012. I wrote a play for him because all the story that he told me for many times. What kind of story? The story is about food. Because yesterday I just word, today we will have the food and have the talking. I said, okay, I'll prepare some of my play involved with the food. This is the first one with the food. This play is the 80th day of the week. That happened in the 1959 to the 1961 in China. We have a great Chinese famine that a lot of people died but no food. In my village, we have more than half people died. But these people, how died, the process, my mother and my father told me many times, a lot of story. So I choose this kind of story put in a play. That play is talk about, I don't know how to say, the people cannot speak. How to say that? Mute. Yeah, I think that a mute in the village, but for the government, they want to talk about. If the money, if the food is too much, how we can deal with that? That is really happened in China in that period. But the people almost died. We have no food. But we need to talk about the subject. So the farmers from the village, they choose a mute to go to the government to talk. So that is the process. All the process. How choose him. And he go back to memory when the 1958, when the Chinese big leaf ahead, building forward. That just the beginning happened. They have so much food. The people have so many things to eat, but then they needed to be together to eat. You cannot cook food at home. And then they get less food, and then can nothing to eat. And all his memories back talk about this period. But I use a comedy way to talk about the tragedy things. I just give you one example. That is my big brother and his story. He always told me about that story. At that time, he only 6 years old. That is in the early morning, he will go to the place to cook the food to the place. The people will cook the food there, but the door is closed. The children just waiting and get the food. That food is only the water with some rice, and he suddenly find when you wash the clothes, they use the big bowl, something like that. They have one rice on that. When my big brother saw that, and he rushed to and take the rice into the mouth and try to eat, but then and spit it out. It is not the rice. It is when you use the clothes, you use the you use. Yeah, the soap. Yeah, the soap can and the nest that only like a rice. So that he told me a story for many times. This is a funny story, but I have a lot of tragic story in this play, because as I said, I prepare 186 slides today. I only for 3, so I speak quickly. So another play is also about food. That is the play name is Captain. And this play also I wrote in the 2011 and presented in China, in Shanghai, in the 2014 and until now. And this play get a lot of awards. Because in China, in the past 40 years, we always talk about what we gain. We have a good life. We get a good food. We get live is good. The city becomes good. The people move to the city. All these things. We are really happy for that. But when I was back home, I saw the village is start to disappear. But I was growing up in a small village. The village for me, is really valuable for the traditional Chinese culture. In fact, in China, in the past time, the government for all the dynasty, the government just to manage until the county, and under the county, we have no official to manage that. They are all by the farmers themselves, by the for the intelligence in the county. But now that it disappeared, because the government can be managed from the top to the village. But when I back home, I found we lose a lot of things. And this play you talk about in the past 40 years, what do we lose? I use old captain. He is from the sea side, but in China, in the seaside, we have along with the sea. But before we have a lot of fish we can get from the sea. We have the fish, some like salmon, this kind of fish, that were really cheap in the 1960s. The people that don't want to buy the sauce, because the sauce is really expensive, but the fish is really cheap. So the fish can be just through everywhere. But now we have no fish. We can go far away to find the fish, but the fish still cannot find it. Because a lot of things make that happen. I cannot to talk about this story. That will be for hour talk about this story. But this is also about the what we lose in the past time. This is the play. Another play, I do that last night because I think you are eat the food. This is the play I wrote in the 1999 is about the name. You can see is the food. This is the name. Also, that is the talk about the in the cultural revolutionary period, a lot of young people from city that go first to the countryside. Their life when they're back to the big city, they still need to face the family, to face the new society, all these kind of things. And this play talk about that. And this is a new play. I'm writing now this play. That is a really good story. In fact, that is have two a man, a woman, a boy and a girl. They met each other. They fall in love. But the girl already have a boyfriend, so the boy is really sad. But they appoint every Saturday noon. They go to the same restaurant to eat the same food. That is the same food is we said is that 3 dishes, 1 soup and 2 rice. They eat more than 40 years. And when the girl's husband died, that is the first thing that go back to the 40 years. That is a play, and also that is a real story. That real story happened in Shanghai. So that also have a restaurant, small restaurant, also have this venue. So I do for this venue to this play, and also I talk with my theater. We want to make the same food when you watch the play. And when you finish the food, you need to have some coffee. So I wrote a play about coffee. the salty taste of cappuccino, and this play I wrote in the 2002, presented in 2003, and that already until this year, every year they present in Shanghai. And they are also about the love story and in the mid-age. That's just right away. It's too difficult for me to go back these stories. I talk about Chinese contemporary theater, not my works. That is our theater. We have 3 stages, the same building, and we have another 4 stages around Shanghai. And in these 3 stages, every night we have 2 or 3 plays on stage. The Chinese contemporary theater is start from the 1907. That is the Chinese student in Tokyo, their first time to do the play, to do a drama, not the traditional Chinese opera. The famous guy is a Buddha, a monk, not a Buddha, a monk, and he did the first Chinese contemporary play is Uncle Tom's Cabin. Because at that time, when China, we have a disaster for the flood, so they want to get money for the people to get money to support back to China. So they also think for the Chinese Qing dynasty at that time, they have the problem. They have some similar things with Uncle Tom's Cabin. So in the 2007, 100 years ago. And in China, we celebrate for the Chinese New Theater for 100 years. So they invite me to adapt the Uncle Tom's Cabin again. So I adapted this play, and this play also published in the United States. And for me, it's interesting things. I choose the story 9 from the Uncle Tom's Cabin. I choose the 4 famous Chinese theater guys, and also I choose the main events happened in the past 100 years. So I want to talk about the relationship between the arts and the political. But at the end of the Uncle Tom's Cabin, the slaves are already free, and the new master come back and talk with the slaver. You are free now, but you still need to work. But if you do not understand, just to see not far away, Tom's the tomb is there. You can think about that. For me, I think this word is really like for the Chinese government said. We are artists. You are free. If you work for us, we can pay you. If you don't understand, please to see the past 100 years what happened. I think exactly same time. So I put the things all together. I choose one thing to talk with you. When in the Uncle Tom's Cabin, when the slave and she will be sold to the south of America, and with her son in the Mississippi River in the summer night, and she back to the master. You cannot to make my son and me to apart. Can we to be still together? But the master is still the son alone. And when the black girl know that story, and she died and jumped to the Mississippi River. But when she died in the Mississippi River, and a guy come out from the river. The guy name is Lao She, and he is the Chinese famous playwright. He was died in the 1967, something like that, in China because of the Hong Weibing. They wanted to just to beat him, and his family not really accept him, and he died in the lake. So I will choose this story, and the real things happened with the Chinese, the drama famous playwrights together, are mixed together. But this and the coming is empty on the stage. That is culture revolutionary 10 years. So I make all things together to talk about the political and the arts, the relationship. In fact, before the 1907, in fact, in Shanghai, we also have the church school. They already have this kind of the theater performance. Also for the Blood Shaw's work, and he also visited Shanghai at that time in the 1920s. Also for the Ibsen's play is popular in China. And also for the Emmert drama, the events, it happened at that time. And the Chinese traditional opera, a lot of the writers, also the directors, are involved with that. And also a lot of Chinese traditional operas actors, and they also work for the Western style drama. These are all kind of the pictures I get for them. And in fact, from the 1907 to the 1949, when the new China rebuilt, in this area for the contemporary China contemporary theater, the center is in Shanghai. They have a lot of the director and the playwright, actors, and the productions happen there, and then go through to all of China, especially during the World War II. And after the China rebuilt in the 1949, we have the system. All the province that will have our theater group. The system is follows Russia, special for the Kwarky and the Stanislavski. They are so popular in China at that time. And that is at the beginning of the 50s. In the 60s also, we said in China, we said is a golden period for the theater in 13 years. From the 1949 to the 1962-61, this period. This is a really famous the play Tea House. That is the playwright is Lao She. Just I talk he died in the lake. That his play. This is really a good play. Also involved with the traditional Chinese opera style, all things together. And from the 1967 to the 1976, in the 10 years in China, that is a culture revolutionary period. We said we only have 8 plays for all the Chinese people. No other things, only 8 plays. That include the 5 Peking opera, 2 ballet, and 1 symphony orchestra's music, something like that. All together is 8. So no drama, no Chinese contemporary theater. But when the culture revolutionary finished in 1976, from the 1977, for the theater, for the arts, the things happened is from the theater, especially from Shanghai, Beijing, and Shenyang. They have several productions come out. Certainly, is talk about the cultural revolutionary to reback the thought about that. That is make the China is open. In 80s, they also have something to talk. The most is about the Renaissance. The theater is really popular. Also, a lot of the experimental things is into the China, and also for the small setup, the black box. I think that in the 1980, something like that, or 81, I forget. When Arthur Miller to visit China, the first stop he visited the Beijing People Art Theater, and he talked with Cao Yu. Cao Yu is a famous playwright. But Cao Yu not really know about him, so Arthur Miller is somewhat sad. But he talked with Beijing People Art Theater, and he give a play to the Beijing People Art Theater to stage. The play is The Death of the Salesman. But there is a really good play, also a really famous the production happened in Beijing. But you know, at that time in China, we don't have salesman. Nobody know about the salesman. Yeah, we just think that it happened in the United States. So yeah, so really critical for the capitalism for that. But when the Arthur Miller went to Shanghai, and he met our founder, the theater founder, is Huang Zhouning. He's a director. He was also educated in UK and back to China. And he know Arthur Miller very well. So Arthur Miller is really happy. And he gave Huang Zhouning another play is Crucible. But the Crucible is a really strong play at that time. When just the Cultural Revolution just finished, it's really similar to that period. So this play is really strong that happened in Shanghai. So I compare, I think why Arthur Miller gives this play to our theater, not go to Beijing People Art Theater. And in the 1980s, they also have some the black box, also the experimental play that is happened in the Beijing also. The famous guy is Gao Xingjian. He also get the Nobel Award, and his together his partner is Ling Zhaohua. They do the play, the first play in the 1982 that is make the Chinese theater is move. And at the same time in Shanghai, we have the director Hu Yiming, and he directed a play in the central stage, also in the black box. That also opened the eyes for the artists in the theater. This play. And also, when a lot of the Western play to be introduced to China, and this play is The Lover by Harold Pinter. But this play, you know, when we do that in China, they use the nude girl as the cover of the program, so that it becomes so popular in all of China. Is nobody really talk about the play. It's about why is nude at that time. So I met the Harold Pinter in 2008 when I presented in the Royal Court, and also I told him about the story. With nothing for that. And also we have a lot of the experimental production. And this playwright also is IWP, the playwright many years ago, Zhang Xian, his name. And in the 90s, because in China is open, have so many things into the China, some like the disco, Hollywood the film, Hong Kong TV series, and the karaoke. So many things happened. People not really go to theater. So also after the 1989, the Times Square event happened. So the theaters go down, and. But they still have some the theater pieces really good. Some like this is Those So Left Behind. Is talk about when the Chinese people moved to the United States, but there are wives and behind what happened to them. This is a popular play in the 1991. And 1 year ago, 1 year later, they have another play. It's also about the IPW, the writer, Tang Ying, and his novel and his husband Zhang Xian just adapted to a play. The name is The Wife Come from United States. That is the second step. And the several years later, they have another play happening in our theater. That is when the Chinese guy moved to the United States, and their wife come to go to United States and accompany their husband together. So about the story about the wives. So all three stories are about the wife, but the wife in a different way. The one instead in China, one go to United States, one United States come back. So you can see at that time, this topic is so popular. And also have other is experimental, also Meng Jinghui, also IWP. IWP have everybody from United States. And after the 2000s, they have something changed. You know, that already, I think that in the 1990s, the theater is really go down. A lot of theater, all the literature and other things. But after 2000s, that is a new generation come out, have the new audience. So that is a lot of things. So my first play presented in the 2000s. In fact, we bring a new audience to go to theater, a new wave. I wrote the play, the name is my play, www.com, that's my play. They also talk about the people, they fall in love from, on the internet, but in the real time, they cannot speak to each other at that time, there's a play. In the 2004, I wrote another play, is physical theater. I'm a playwright, I write a play script, have low language. So that is all use the physical, is play about dog's face, is talk about white colors, there's life. And also some of the commercial plays popular, some like Three Blind Mice that by the Agatha Christie is so popular in China. At that time, we really talk about the marketing, the arts, all these kind of things that make we think. But the big thing is happening in 2005 when in China we have the new policy to allow the independent company. Before that, you cannot have the independent kind of private company for arts. But after that, you can. So after 2005, because the law changed, there are so many the young people that work for the theater. It's some like a bloom time suddenly happened from the 2005. That is, I will always talk about the audience. This is the audience in the Beijing that 100 years ago. And this is the audience in the 80s and the 90s in the small village in the county. And this is the audience now in the big city. In Shanghai, we have, I don't know, but we have about 130 theater companies right now. So many, but some, they just won one play and they disappeared, another what happened. I work in the theater in the 1995. I was in the theater as a publicity manager, and I to do the marketing for our theater for many, many years. I always think about the audience. I know the audience from 80s, born in the 80s. I know the audience from the 90s, but now I don't really understand the audience now. Yeah. Yeah, they are young. I have a son, only 6 years old. I cannot really to speak to him. He crazy. Do something. But we want to make audience happy. But how to make them happy? In China, in Shanghai right now, the Rocky Mozart is really popular. That is last year in the Shanghai is a big theater for 1 month. When I go to watch this play, they invite me to go to there. I'm shocked by the audience. Almost all the audience there are young girls. They stay there, they're crazy. When the guy on the stage smile, do some little things, they are crazy, they shout. I don't understand. And all the time, I'm not really to watch the play. I watch the audience. They're really young. That is the theater manager told me they have 1 girls, and he buy the tickets in the first of the 4 row, the first seats of 4 row, but she buy 24 all performance, all the one seat, and stayed in the hotel nearby the theater and watch every night. So they're really crazy for that, but I don't know what happened. So I need to talk. I want to make why it happened. So when we talk with them, and then we find this play is from France, but this play is put on the internet. In China, we have the Bilibili, the website. In this Bilibili website, for maybe 10 years, and this movie there is so popular. So they know all about that, but for me, I know nothing about that. It's changed so quickly. So that is the play we adapt from the New York. We moved that to Shanghai. We already do that is for almost 3 years. You can guess one audience how many performances he watched. We already performance around 800 performances, but the 1 girl already watched. Last night I asked my colleague, and she already watched that 302 performances. But this ticket is really difficult to chase it. It's really expensive. It's about 750 Chinese renminbi. It's about $100. But she watched that more than 300 performances. But that means she already every day she waiting in front of a computer to catch the ticket. They also have a group. This group, you must watch more than 50 performances. You can enter the group. This is another thing. So we will happen in the next month. That is a play from UK. We do that. We have 10 minutes or 5 minutes.
We have to stop for questions.
Okay.
So sum up.
Okay, I finish for the questions or what?
Do you want to sum up? Do you have last comments before questions?
Okay. I just talk about the beginning. I'm sorry for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. What a fascinating and fabulous talk. And I want to give Nick a quick chance to conclude his thoughts about the state of contemporary theater in China, and then I'll turn to these questions.
I do not get that. Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you so much. In fact, for this talking, I prepare I want to talk about what happened for the Chinese contemporary theater right now. There have so many things happened. Most of the contemporary theater happened in the Beijing and Shanghai in the big city, but now moved to the second the level city, something like Hangzhou and Nanjing, Chongqing, this kind of city, and then we'll move to the third and the fourth, these kind of cities. But the theater, contemporary theater, still is not that popular for all the people. That is popular for young people. The young people that want to go to the theater. But the contemporary theater still, most of them are still boring in China. Some is really commercial, some really to focus on the government want you to do, but we still have some productions that are really good. For the young audiences and the young artists, they work very hard to do some new things. That is we need to follow. I'm an older guy. We need to follow that. Thank you.
That's fabulous. I have to say that Ling Engel and I went to a play by Meng Jingwo in Beijing, and it was clear to me that he was like a rock star. I mean, the audience was young, and they flocked around him. He had his own groupies. It was pretty exciting. To follow up on your last comment, the question is theater popular at the village level in China? If so, are there local theater groups, amateurs, active, or are there professional touring companies who perform in villages and small towns? And Dunhuang, do you want to translate that for me?
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah. But in fact, for the village, we not really have the drama. We most have the traditional opera. But they have some the young artists. They do the festival. They do some the experimental the theater piece in the village. In fact, in my talking, I have one slide. I quickly make it quickly. It's the 1940s. Also in China, that a famous director, theater director, and he also bring the theater go to the small village in the Hebei province. But now they have some the artists that do like that. But most of the village we don't have the drama. We only have the Chinese traditional opera.
Some of your plays deal with topics that are controversial in China. How do you deal with censorship?
I wrote almost more than 70 plays, more than 60 is put on the stage. In fact, in our theater, we present more than 300 productions since 1995 until now. We have, some of them have the problem with the censorship, but most of them, they're my play. And in fact, I have the one section talk about that. I have 1 year. I try to do the experimental things to focus on the censorship, these kind of things. And I want to see what happened. So I wrote 3 plays. The one play is talk about the war. The one play is that is also a real story. My colleague, a girl, he went to the supermarket at night and have the two men to rape her. One take her bag away and one slap her. And she is crying, say, how could you slap a girl? I think, how should you slap a girl is a really good play the name for me. So I wrote a play for that. And I get the commission by the Travers Theatre from the Edinburgh. I do this play and do the stage reading there. And then back, I do the workshop in Shanghai. But this play we cannot put on the stage because the two men, they have the gay things inside. So in China, for the gay things, you can talk, but if you are put on the stage, that by chance. Sometimes you can do that, sometimes you cannot do that. So the censorship in China is also the problem for that. If we know by the law, I think that we need to change the law. We need to deal with that. But most of the time is not really by the law, it's by somebody. If somebody sits there, they think it's good, they think it's not that good. I will give example. When I wrote the play about the war, the government said, the government, that is official guy said, no, you cannot do this play. You have a lot of problem with your writing. So my producer come back to me. I really angry. Who said my play, I writing some problem? I can talk with her. And when I go to that, is just a little girl, and she just graduated from the university. I talked with her. I said, I have the experience for writing more than 20 years, and you just graduate. You said my writing has a problem. Let me go. How to writing? I will follow you. And then she said nothing. I threw that.
On a slightly different note, what is the significance of the crow, the character for crow, in the crowds? Significance. What does the crow mean?
Oh yeah. For the crowd is a crow is in China in Chinese culture is not a good thing. When a crow appeared, that means you have the bad things happen. Your tragedy will happen. But also in China we have a 成语 said 乌合之众. That said also the crowd. When the crowd involved with the crowd will be some bad things. So in this play, the crowd always fly around the characters, and all the characters to be on as the crowd all the time, always changed. So I want to say is if we in the group like this, if we don't do smart, will be think or something will be happen.
Our Samuel has a wonderful question. Thank you for the explanation about Stanislavski, Beckett, and Chinese theater. How do you mix and perform different theatrical philosophies in your work?
In fact, I think that, my original training is rehabilitation, and I never have training for writing. And I always say my writing is taught by the physical theater, physical teacher, education teacher, and but in one play I can find a subject, and I use the different things to talk about that. But most I want to talk with the audience. When I writing things, the audience just sit opposite me. I know he will happy or sad or want or love me or hate me. So I know this kind of feeling. So when I write the play, I just keep this kind of feeling. But what kind of things and what kind of audience I want to talk with, and then I will choose all different things. Some Beckett, Stanislavski, Chinese traditional opera, no problem. I can use that just for me to use. Yeah.
Well, this touches on something what you just talked about, your education as a playwright. How did you go from training to be a medical doctor to a career in the theater?
That is a long story, but also for this story, I also wrote a play about that. I wrote a lot of play about what I think. I adapt the Das Kapital into the play. When I want to talk about the artist with the money, with the capitalism, all these kind of things, I also write the play. When I write a play about the crowd, I talk about the individual people with the group, all these kind of things. So that is based on what kind of subject I choose. When I try to go to the university, you need to pass the examination in China. We say the Gaokao. That is really difficult, especially for the people from the small village. I never go to Beijing and Shanghai. When I grew up, I just in the county, in the town. So when I passed the examination, I get a high score. So I can go to a really good university. I like to be a policeman. I really want to be policeman, and I want to get because that can paid by the government, and you have a good knife. And my father want to me. You can do like that. So I choose my wish to be a policeman and go to university. But when that passed the examination, they have the 28 students can be only one guy can be the policeman. So we competition is really hard. We needed to examine your body, your mind, all these kind of things. And last, we only have 3 guys to left. You can do that. But I have the high goal. I think I should go there. But at last, I cannot go because when we do the examination in the room, a policeman stays there, and he is the brother of one of the guy, and have the lowest girl, and how that guy go to the university. I did not go to university, but I have the high girl, so the Shanghai Physical the Education Institute, they ask me if I want to go, so I go there, be a doctor. But when I be a doctor in the hospital, I go to work in the morning. I in the Guangzhou, but the people speaking the different language, I don't understand. They are all the people that claim to you, they have a problem. I want to be happy. So at night, I decided to quit job and go back to Shanghai, go to the theater.
Well, I think we can say that what China lost in terms of security and medical practice, it gained in theatrical performance. Thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you.
So unfortunately, we have to conclude our program, but I want to give a big thank you again to Nick Yu for a wonderful presentation. So thank you. So, I want to thank our sponsors, too, the University of Iowa's Honors Program. Whoops, don't go anywhere. You got to stay here. The University of Iowa Public Policy Center and the Stanley U of I Foundation Support Organization for their generous support, as well as Ken and Alice Atkinson and Green State Credit Union for their support, and City Channel 4. And Nick, now, I couldn't let you leave without giving you our highly coveted Iowa City Foreign Relations Council mug as our thank you gift. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.